the most winningest jockey in Breeders' Cup history, 26 championships, Mike Smith. I mean, my gosh, right? I'm sure you remember all of them in great detail. And I know the one that most people hold most dear to their hearts, and that, of course, would be in 2009 aboard Zenyatta, the only female to ever win the Breeders' Cup Classic. But when you look over your career, in particular in the Breeders' Cup, what stands out to you, apart from her even?
Oh, gee, just that I've been so blessed to have won 26 of them. I mean, you know, the record was held back in the day by Jerry Bailey when there was only, I believe there, what was there, 7? They only had one day of Breeders' Cups, you know, back in the day. And I was blessed to have broken that record with the originals before it switched over kind of into the 2 days where you know, you have what, I forget how many they have now with it, the 2 days. I think it's around, what, 11, I think, or something like that. But, you know, you certainly have an opportunity to win a whole lot more nowadays than you did in the past. And that's probably why I've reached the 26. But I'll take them all. They all mean a whole lot to me. And there's something about Breeders' Cup Day that just, I don't know, man. Everything feels different on that day. That day just really lights me up, man. It's like when, put it into sports terms where people would understand it, be like Jordan always describing when he got the opportunity to play at Madison Square Garden, how it just made him feel different. He felt like he could jump faster, you know, shoot better and play a better game at Madison. It just brought something out of him. And it's kind of what the Breeders' Cup does for me. It just kind of takes me to another level.
Do you get nervous? Because I would think on a big day like that, part of the reason you've had such great success is that you don't let the nerves get to you where it may affect other jockeys to a higher degree.
Well, that energy, you know, that nervous energy or that excitement, whatever you want to call it, is a very powerful energy. So you can certainly use it 2 different ways. If you let it get to you, then it just kind of speeds everything up, and everything's fast enough as it is. And if you let it do that to you, it's probably not a good idea. It tends to really make me focus, man. It makes me slow everything down. I really focus, and then I just have a blast riding, you know, those races, whichever ones that they may be, man. I just try to make every step the right one from the word go without getting in the way, and it just seems to really work for me.
I wonder if also, I mean, that's part of the relationship you have with a horse like Zenyatta. What endeared her to fans was her pre-race antics, that Spanish step she would take, that leg pointed outward. And what it was all that energy pent up, but instead of exploding and losing her mind like some horses do, she would just focus it and harness it all through her body to come out through that tip of her hoof. And in some ways, what you're saying sounds very akin to that. Like, you let the energy course through you, but you harness it.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right. You know, if you don't have that energy, if there's just nothing there, then you're not ready.
Well,
you know, I mean, heard a great coach say, if my player, if you ain't nervous, you ain't ready. It's just how you use that energy. You know, you gotta harness it and use it right. And, you know, if you'll use it to slow things down, to focus, man, it's amazing because that energy is all there, but yet you see everything so much clearer and so much bigger, and it slows down in your head because the game's going as fast as it's going anyway. It's fast, but if you can slow it down in your head, man, it just makes things easier. You just map out a better trip. You know, you feel things much better when you do that.
Well, that's one of the main things also is when you're in any race, whether it's an afternoon claimer or a big grade one like the Breeders' Cup Classic, you have to stay focused and you can't panic. And when you go back, for example, the 2009 Breeders' Cup Classic, I still remember Trevor Denman saying, Zenyatta, with a lot of ground to make up. If she wins this, she'll be a super horse. Do you remember, I mean, obviously you couldn't hear the call while you're riding, but do you remember going back and, you know, watching the replay of the race when he's saying that, the actual move you were making and what was running through your head?
Oh yeah, no, but you know, I go back and watch it now, I get more nervous now watching it than I actually was in the race because again, I was so focused, you know. I really thought I was following a really good horse in Gio Ponte. I knew that I needed to cut some corners to win this race. I didn't feel like I could certainly just loop the field and beat him. I needed to save all I could save, and then hopefully I had a place to go when it was time to run. And for as big as she was so athletic. And when I was able to follow, Giopani through there, you'll see that one little spot there just before the 8 pole where she just kind of slides sideways, which is very hard to do for a smaller, very athletic horse, let alone a filly that's 17.2 and as big as she was. But that's how athletic she was. She could just move from side to side just as easy as she could forward. It was amazing. And she just skipped out to the side, and when she skipped out clear, and I called on her, and she lunged forward, I knew she had it at that point. And I could literally hear Trevor Denman. The only part I could hear is him saying, "This is unbelievable." And I became a fan myself. I was, if I could have let go of the reins, I think I'd have started clapping, man.
I love it. Oh my gosh. And, I think of all the successes you've had. I mean, it's overwhelming, and all the great horses you've ridden. I mean, right behind you, you've got Unbridled Song. You won the Juvenile Aboard him. And, going back to this idea of not panicking in a race also, it comes to mind, I know it wasn't in the Breeders' Cup, but Arrogate, after he won the Breeders' Cup in 2016, he goes over to Dubai, and we all know what happened at that start of the race, where the filly was inside just kind of lost her mind a bit as just before the gates opened, and then ping-ponged into him, and then he got hit on the other side as well, and it just caused this stymieing of propulsion. And yet you came back from that to score. What's running through your head when that's going on? When you're on this another big, massive animal?
Yeah, he was what a great. Well, we lost him way too soon. What a great horse.
I know.
Yeah, it takes a special. It takes a special horse to do what he did. Especially to beat the horse that he did. Gunrunner after that race, I don't believe ever was defeated again. So for him for that to happen, what happened to him even there, I mean, literally he had to stop himself just to get out of that situation, and then we had to start all over from a standstill almost. But you just take baby steps. I knew I couldn't go from there to first. I mean, I probably could have if I would have pushed the button, but then what was I going to have left, for the rest of the race? And I like probably everyone else, I was like, oh, I can't believe this just happened, man. So I didn't know if he could do that or not, but I just thought to myself, man, if I swear to you, and went through my head, if Zenyatta could come from back here, you can do it. And let's just get into this. Let's just see. Let's get around this first turn, and if you start taking me to where I want to go, then we'll keep going. And if not, then we're done. And he did. He just started taking me to every place I needed to go, and then down the backside, once I made the turn, I kind of pulled him out of the dirt just to get him going forward a little bit to see what he would do. And he jumped into the bridle so much, I literally had to put him back into the dirt because he was going to go from last to make too big of a move. I was able to get him back in there, and then I saw it wasn't necessarily my entry mate, but Opportunity was just in front of me, and I thought, great, I know Opportunity very well. I know he always finishes. He'll at least get me through this first bunch, and I'll cut every corner I can, and then tip out and see if I can catch him. And so he was kind of my fullback. I just kind of followed him all the way through there, and then was able to tip out in the middle of the turn. And when I did, again, he jumped on the bridle. I thought, oh my God, he might can do this. Well, maybe he'll get second for sure, because to me it looked like Gunrunner had things his own way, and there wasn't no catching him. But then after he made the turn, it was making up where I thought, well, he's going to get second for sure. Then he switches to his right lead and hits another gear. And when he did that, I thought, cool, he's going to, not only is he going to win, he's going to win drawing away. And I literally, the last 60th of a mile, just kind of hand rode him on in. And he was one of the most incredible races I'll ever be part of anyway. And probably I think he come out of there with a number that was so high, it was unbelievable. So he was a very, very special horse.
He was, and as you said, we lost him too soon. Juddmonte was standing him at stud, so hopefully we did get some foals on the ground. And one of the mares to go to him was Songbird.
Yeah, so excited about seeing that baby come up this year. This mid-year coming.
It's so exciting, and obviously we know your relationship with her. What a tremendous talent she was on the track, and one of the most unforgettable Breeders' Cup moments we have, because I mean, it's right up there with Easy Goer and Sunday Silence and the Preakness duking out in the stretches, of course, Songbird and Beholder. And we know that Beholder just got up. But it's such a thrilling race for so many reasons, including the fact that aboard Beholder, Gary Stevens, who's like a brother to you. So that stretch duel, I mean, can you take us through that?
Yeah, I mean, she had to do all the dirty work. Had a filly that I think that Mr. Jones was training, that Flo was riding, that was kind of pushing her along. So I never really got a breather. So for her to run the race that she ran that day without just getting a chance to if I could have got a breather at some point, it would have certainly helped. But she didn't, and she had to try and withstand the big challenge and turn a foot that Beholder had. I mean, she's a beast in her own right, and it was just an amazing battle all the way through the lane, all the way to the wire. I still didn't know who won. I couldn't tell. I mean, we both had our heads down riding as hard as we could, and even though we were defeated, it was a race that I didn't feel like there was a loser in that race. As far as the first two finishers were concerned, I mean, they both won. It just one's happened to be down at the, I was in front the jump before and the jump after. I just won in front the jump of, so to me, they were both the champions. And then the connections that were involved on both ends, wonderful, great people. And it was an amazing race. And I'm glad to be part of probably one of the greatest Breeders' Cup finishes of all time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for you to actually be in the saddle for so many of these great races, not just that's the best seat in the house, right? Up in those irons.
Yeah.
Apart from the obvious races, I mean, and the obvious names that we could go over again, you have won 26 Breeders' Cup races altogether. Are there any that are sort of under the radar that we've never really, discussed at length, that you've never been asked to go over at length, where you, having actually participated in it, are like, wow, these people never asked me about this race, but it was one of the most incredible experiences in my career?
That's what's wonderful about the Breeders' Cup, though, Ren. Really, they all are, and they all are so incredible, man. I mean, the connections, the time, the people, the everyone that put in all the hard work and the great horses. I mean, the stories are endless, and we could probably sit here and talk all day. I always love to talk about Lure myself. He was my first, and he went back-to-back Breeders' Cup miles. Probably would have won 3 in a row. Had a quarter crack that last time. Otherwise, he probably would have come away with 3 in a row and retired, being a 3-time Breeders' Cup champion. Still didn't run bad, but that quarter crack was bad enough that it certainly bothered him. But he was just an amazing horse. He's probably one of the greatest milers of all time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's such great names. Lure, I think he was also the first Breeders' Cup winner, not just for you, but also for Claiborne, I think.
I believe so. I believe you're right. Yeah.
And I mean, I look at these names, and I mean, it's just so impressive. I mean, Royal Delta, one of only 4 horses now, because Monomoy Girl, you had Beholder, and Bayakoa were the 3 mares who had won 2 editions of the Distaff, along with Monomoy joined Royal Delta, Bayakoa, and Beholder in that group. So now we have 4. And you were aboard for one of those Distaff wins with Royal Delta. She was so elegant, but yet she had such an interesting way of going, that head real low to the ground, it seemed. When you have the horses with these different styles, how do you really have to adjust yourself, your own position?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Somewhat. I mean, not drastically, but yes. With her, I certainly would drop my irons down a little bit, and I'd sit a little farther back on her, because if you had them up and you would be too far forward. She was very. If you ever saw, which I know you did, AP Indy, she reminded me a lot of him. His style of the way he ran, the way he carried his head. She did the same thing, but she was so athletic and so smooth that it didn't feel awkward when you were on her. It probably looked more awkward than what it felt. Mm-hmm. Again, just blessed to be part of that team and that brilliant mare, man. She was, again, something else. It was incredible. I'd love to write a book one day just about the fillies that I've been so blessed to have ridden. I've gotten a chance to rid some pretty good ones.
Yeah, I would say so. Absolutely. I mean, we all love Midnight
Not
Beast.
to mention some great Colts.
Yes, you
Like
have.
Justify,
Well,
but
that's the thing. I mean, when you've had all the success, you've ridden nearly oh gosh, how many now? It's like nearly 34,000 races. That's insane. Okay? And you have had all the success. And I'm sure people, if they're outside of racing, they ask you when you say, "Oh, when you say you're a jockey," if they ask you what you do, you're on a plane together traveling. "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, I'm a jockey." "Have you ever won the Kentucky Derby?" But now you can say, because of Justify, you've won the Triple Crown.
yeah, and it's an amazing thing to be able to say. It really is. Like I even talking about it, I get choked up just even saying it. So that's how powerful that is. That's like the holy grail. I mean, of horse racing. Period. I mean, winning the Derby is unbelievable, but when you can win all three, that's just different.
We talk so much about what a crucible it is for horses, but for you as the jockey in the mix of that, how was it tough, more difficult mentally to prepare to go from the Derby then to the Preakness and then knowing you're alive to capture that final jewel in the Belmont, or as we've been discussing, that even keel, you're able to harness that energy. What was that like for you? Because I remember Penny Chenery when she was talking about going through that with Secretariat, just the media crush.
It can be pretty tough, but fortunate for me, I'm a man of faith, man. So I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of praying, and that really kept me mellow and focused, and kind of kept everything out. And I just would pray and put in his hands, and that would just make me feel better and relax. And I think the most nerve wracking, I guess, out of the three to me really was the Preakness, believe it or not, because of course you want to win the Derby, and if you can get through the Derby, then you of course now you have a chance at this, right? You have a big chance. But I thought all along that between the three, that this horse would probably handle Belmont the best, as big as he was, and those big sweeping turns. I just had a feeling that if I could get through the first two, this horse would win all three. I really felt that going into the Derby, actually, and I felt very strongly that he had a huge chance to win the Derby. And of course, when he did, we were blessed to win the Derby. Now we got to go into the Preakness. And now I had to let him run. We had to. I mean, he had to work hard to win the Derby. Now we got to see if I can get this Preakness done without squeezing him too much, without asking him to do more than he needed to. I was just trying to get the race won, and that was pretty much it. And of course, you saw the weather and the fog, and you couldn't hardly see, too much. And we were very blessed to have done just that. Maybe even cut it just a little bit too close there, but I could have, if I'd have come off the turn really riding him and asking him for his all, he certainly could have went on and drew off and probably won by more. But the last eighth of a mile, I kind of let him gear down and just a little bit there, just to save something for the end, because I felt that he's so lightly raced. He already ran hard in the Derby. Then he's going to have to wheel back and go a mile and a half. So we needed to get this done. And you couldn't tell all that because of the fog and everything. So I remember coming back after the race, and Bob said, "Man, that was it, huh? He was all out. He was done." I said, No, are you kidding me? Didn't you see him gallop out?" He said, "I couldn't see him gallop out." Because once that horse actually got right up next to me, man, he jumped back in the bridle. And I mean, he took off again around the turn. So I knew he was still there, and there was energy left. It felt like it was anyway. It gave me a really good feeling. So honestly, going into the Belmont, I just really enjoyed it. I even took a nap before the race, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Seriously? Oh my gosh. I
They got me on TV sleeping about 40 minutes before the race. They had to wake me up.
Oh wow. See, I wouldn't have even been able to sleep the night before.
You couldn't wipe off that day. It was meant to be. Oh. It was just meant to be. And
how did you celebrate?
It felt like that, and I wasn't going to get in the way of it. Let's put it that way.
There you go. I love it. So how did you celebrate after that? I mean, my gosh, you've just won the Triple Crown.
Yeah, the most humblest feeling that I've ever felt in my life. It's the only time I've ever felt, that humble. I mean, it's just an amazing feeling. And I was so blessed to have a lot of family and friends around, and it was just fun. It was just a quiet, nice evening back at the Garden City Hotel and the restaurant, just hanging out, had a private room, just hanging out with family and friends.
You see, I mean, just all the years. Does it flash before your eyes? I mean, you've been riding forever. I mean, before a professional jockey, you like to go out and ride, and uh, you just always knew, from what I recall from our past conversations, that this is what you wanted to do. That this is what you were blessed to be able to do. This was your gift. And so when you reach that level, I mean, you were inducted in the Hall of Fame back in 2003 already. So I mean, everything else has got to feel just like a cherry on top of a cherry, I would think. But
You know,
I love.
you would think that, Ren, but I'm so competitive that if I don't win a race in a week, man, I'm wondering what the heck happened, man. It's like I forget all about all of that and
Oh,
try and get back into the limelight, get back into where I think I need to be, and so I'm just too competitive to even think about it. I think one day when it's all said and done, and I'm going to sit around and just, I don't know, just probably be in awe of a lot of it, and really be like, wow, I can't believe that all that happened. But I don't let it go there right now. It might for a moment, but then I take it right out because I have tomorrow.
it's an
Or
insatiable hunger, it
the
sounds
moment
like.
that's coming, I have, these races today or whatever it is. And you're only as good as your last race in my eyes most of the time until it's all said and done.
Not resting on your laurels and taking nothing for granted. And you've got you've got a fantastic prospect. In particular, I talk about 2-year-olds, and so it's really hard for me not to immediately, when I think of this year's Breeders' Cup, November 5th and 6th at Del Mar, the TVG Juvenile presented by the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance. You got Corniche, who just won the Win and You're In Grade 1 American Pharaoh from the jump. I mean, right out of the gate. This is a horse who on debut, this was just a second start, the American Pharaoh, but on debut, he put in a giant figure for a 2-year-old. And you were aboard for that as well. What are your impressions of this horse? Because, I mean, it's a great pedigree. Quality Road out of Wasted Tears by Nadran. He's got a really deep family that goes back to 1X, which is just absolutely prolific. And he looked like he did this well within himself.
He certainly did. And he has the it factor. The it factor to me is not only a horse that's above average on ability, it's that they have the mind and the will to go with it. And he has all of it. He has the three things you need, man. He's got the talent, he's got the will, and he's got the mind, which again makes for a great horse, not just a good horse, but a great horse. So he's got that kind of ability, he's got that kind of try, and he's got that kind of mind. So I'm just so excited to see. I think, good Lord's willing, he'll stay healthy. I think, man, you could see this horse doing some pretty incredible things down the road.
Had you been aboard him before his debut also in the morning?
I've been on him in the morning, and he was about as classy as class could be for such a young horse, and being a big colt, as well. A lot of times they have a lot of play in them and a lot of messing around and not wanting to do things, right. But man, I mean, he just aims to please, man. He's I believe he's named after a Rolls Royce, and that's what he feels like. Right. If you've ever been in one, I've been blessed to have ridden in one. I certainly have.
I have not.
I've ridden in one, and man, it's the smoothest feeling you could feel, and that's what he feels like, with a lot of power and ability to go with it.
Well, I look at that pedigree also, and from his sire, a horse who could go around 2 turns and set, Quality Road set a track record here in the Florida Derby, and then he beat his own record when he won the Dawn the following year by like 12 3/4 lengths. And then the female family has a lot of horses in there as well who were able to set records in their races. I mean, I know Nadran was more of a sprinter type, but he nearly equaled Dr. Fager's world record for a mile back in the day, although Dr. Fager was carrying 134 pounds.
You're great at all this breeding. You're really good.
Obviously, it would be remiss, when you were talking about all these great mirrors that you've ridden, Inside Information, Obviously, you got to bring her up as Zeri. I mean, I know that one must have meant a lot to you. You were coming back from an accident. And that was your first Breeders' Cup win since that had happened.
Yeah, it was. And it's amazing. A real close friend of mine say, you're just one good horse away from getting back, to where you were, and who knows, maybe even better as far as your career goes. And she was that one horse that just got me right back, because I just come from New York to California, based in New York for all them years that had come to California, and was just getting started and was just struggling just a little bit. I just needed that one good horse that just gets you rolling, man. That it's amazing what one good horse can do for someone, man. It can make your life, your career, and everything. And she was the one who got it all started all over again.
Gosh, well, how many horses do you think that you were in that there's a stakes race named for them now?
I never thought about that.
That would be fun to go back and look at, I think, right?
Yeah, we figure that out one day. One just ran last week. The Zenyatta ran last.
I know, exactly. I mean, it's incredible. And well, I mean, obviously, that's the horse that I think most people link you most with. I think it's because she was making history. I think, again, it was just this dynamic presence that she had where, here you are in California. She's this big, giant mare, and with, again, just charisma about her and everything she did. And I think people just love that so much. And I know with that, already in your job anyway, as a professional rider in riding at the top of the game, there was already sort of this responsibility of being a good ambassador for the sport, which you've been throughout your career. You're always so kind. You are one of the most humble people who's achieved so much. I mean, especially when you look at athletics, right? It's because I was talking to a friend about this, and a lot of times when you see athletes in particular, and athletes who are in sports that are particularly dangerous, there's an element of a personality that has to be there where it's a combination of like this, super confidence and, a little bit of ego. But here you are, and you have all of that, and yet you are, again, one of the most humble people, period. You've achieved the heights of the heights in this sport. And just as a human being outside of it as well, you are absolutely a treasure. And for you, I just say, so has this been do you feel an extra sense of pressure from that standpoint of being an ambassador of racing, or does it just come naturally to you?
Yes, I do. There's, but for some odd reason, the more pressure I put on myself, the more I focus. the more I love the pressure. I want to be the guy that's in the Breeders' Cup Classic, you're 1-5 that drew the one hole, man, where no one wants to be. I mean, okay, we got there. Let me be that guy. I want to be him, and might not get it done, but I want to be the guy in control, man. I want to be the guy that's trying to get it done, and I just thrive on those kind of situations and on big races. Again, they just do something to me. I don't know how to describe it, but they really do, and you do need all those things that you were talking about earlier, but those are on the field, or on the track. Then you come off, and then you got to be who you're supposed to be, and who you are.
Well, I always joke around because I did used to show horses, but what you guys do up there, perched in those stirrups, going as fast as you're going, it takes it to a whole other level of what you need to be able to mentally do in terms of calming your nerves. But talking about the classic, might not be in 1-5, but a horse with a shot nonetheless, who may be overlooked, is Art Collector. And if everything goes as it should, where Essential Quality draws into the classic with his regular rider, Luis Saez, I'm hearing that you may get the pickup mount on Art Collector, who just won the Woodward Stakes over Maxfield. Tell us about this horse and what your expectations are if you do indeed end up in the saddle come November 6th.
Was so excited when we heard that I believe we do get to ride him. as long as Essential Quality, makes the pre-entries anyway. Just first and foremost, me and Billy go way back. Me and Mr. Mott, back to my apprenticeship. Just about, I've been riding for him for that long, and we've had a lot of success together. Not to mention, we won a classic together with Drosselmeyer.
Yes.
Which was a pretty neat one to win. Especially it followed the year that Zenyatta got beat in 2010, so it was great to come back the following year and kind of redeem yourself, so to say. But yeah, just to get to ride for Billy and then to get to ride this colt. This was a colt that was going into the Kentucky Derby, as you well know. That was probably going to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite. And then, of course, he come up with a little problem and didn't make it. But I remember his, matter of fact, I finished second to him in his last prep race for the Derby, which was the Bluegrass, I believe. And
yeah, you were on Swiss Skydiver.
I was on Swiss Skydiver, and let me tell you, we headed for home, and I thought I was long gone. I thought there was no way no one's going to pass me. I mean, she just absolutely just dropped and cut when I asked her to run. I said, it's over. And about 3 jumps later, here he came on top of me. I went, what? Where did he come from? And I couldn't believe that he beat me like he did, because, man, I mean, I really felt someone would have to be just way above average to even think about beating me. And he did it. And we all know what she went on to do. Yeah. She's an amazing mare herself. But what I love about him is his running style too, Ren. I know you're into breeding a lot, but of course you're into handicapping quite a bit too, because your husband as well, Matt. And you guys know that should be a pretty hot pace in the Classic, from what it's looking like, as far as the horses going in there with Medina Spirit in there. That's forwardly placed all the time. It's very quick out of the gate. Nick's Go is going to be, of course, we all know what he does leaving there, and there'll be others with pace as well. And he's not an either lead type, although he has won his last 2 preps on the lead. It's just because he's talented enough to be there, and that's what you want, right? He's a horse that shouldn't be far off the pace. As a matter of fact, he'll be forwardly placed himself, but he can sit. So if the pace is hot enough, unless something goes wrong leaving the gate, then he's quick enough to be on the lead if that's the case. But if all goes the way it looks like on paper, he can sit just off those 2 or 3 speed horses, and he comes with a great run, because I've seen it before. He's already run by me a time or two, so he owes. The way I look at it, he owes me.
That's right. He does owe you.
The owner is a great man, a great friend of mine. We go way back, and so I'm just really happy to be on this horse. I think he's a horse that could upset the apple cart.
Okay, so 2 more questions, and then I'm going to let you go. So first of all, when we're looking now at Del Mar, this is the second time we've had the Breeders' Cup there. For people who are new to playing Del Mar, are there any angles that, for you as a jockey riding these races, whether it's on the main track, whether it's on the turf, that you think handicappers should just be more cognizant of, that maybe they don't take into consideration as much?
But probably be more turf racing, I would think, Ren. As you all know, Del Mar is pretty short stretch. It's an awkward turn. It has a little bit of it's kind of made like a kind of egg shape where you'll turn into it and kind of go straight, and then all of a sudden it kind of turns and then goes straight again, and then you turn on into the thing, and you'll see it. They'll kind of shift, and then boom, the wire's right there. You don't have a whole lot of time to make up ground. But in saying that, the Europeans, they fared pretty well whenever they came over here the first time we had the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar. So, a good horse will overcome all those little things. But I think the turf racing is just a little more tricky. Your dirt's pretty much, it is what it is. I mean, it's pretty your basic American dirt racetrack. It's a great, safe racetrack. It'd probably be it's been playing a bit on the slow side. It's not as fast as it used to be back in the day. They've got, basically a whole new surface on it, and it's slower than in the past. But it's very safe and it's very true to form. If you go too fast on the lead, you're going to pay for it. But if you do get away with something, well, you can certainly win on the lead. But I think the turf racing is the most tricky part. You'd certainly want a horse that was forwardly placed, that had a really good quick turn of foot. And then that's about all you need. Those that have a longer run, you have to get brave with them early. So you're going to have to try and move earlier down the backside and hope that you're on the outside so you're clear, and then you don't get hung too wide. So it could be very difficult for a horse like that. But a very athletic horse with a quick turn of foot, man, that just gives you that real burst of speed real quick. They're tough to beat at Del Mar.
And what are some of the things we should also understand? Sorry, I'm tacking this question onto it because I do think it's relevant regarding, with the different rules now in place and how you can encourage your horse. Is there a dramatic shift you're seeing in how horses are finishing, whether it's at Del Mar or anywhere, that we should take into consideration also when we're handicapping? Because I would think, the more you see a horse do something well within themselves, the more of a nod you should give them. But I can understand, what are you usually doing more to supplement? Is it just more of the handwriting and asking that way?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly hope you're on a horse that's very eager to please, and when you call on, they respond. That certainly helps a whole lot.
Yeah.
If it's a horse, it's a big, heavy kind of lumbering horse that you have to get running. Man, it's very difficult. It's very, very hard, to get them going to start with, because you might have to start riding them early on in the race, and then you run out. The number's only 6, and it has to be down. And so, man, you could certainly you just gotta hope that things work out for you. So that makes it probably a whole lot harder than it used to be. But if you got a horse that doesn't mind being first, and not all horses are like that, as you well know, Ren. You put them all in a field together. 9 times out of 10, the leader that you see will be the same leader that you see every day. If you put those same, 10 horses in the field, they're not all leaders. They follow, a lot of them, they pack animals, and so one of those that likes to lead certainly helps. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the ones that like to lay second or third or fourth or fifth aren't as good. They just need a little more encouraging to get by. So, you certainly gotta time it a whole lot better than you used to, and you only got so much you can do, and then after that, it is what it is.
Yeah, we've seen so many times in races where a horse is coming with all the momentum, and then for whatever reason, they get right up to the horse that's in the lead, and they're poised to pass them, but they look that horse in the eye and they just stop running. It's like you said, it's the herd dynamics. If you have an alpha and that horse is just more of a subservient type personality, or a beta, they just kind of go back and tuck into themselves mentally, and they will not go by. It doesn't matter, and it can be pretty tough. And one of the other things you're talking about, the stretches and whatever, it's so important that not only are you coming out and you're not being floated wide, but you're able to get that lead change. Because one of the things I've noticed in a lot of races as of late, again, is you have horses coming around. It looks like they're going to have the momentum, but they will not change their lead, and they just can't go on.
No, you gotta hope that they do anyway. And you help them, and you can only do so much, with even that as well now. Because back in the day, left-handed, you could ask one to switch over, and they would really do it. But it's very, very much more difficult now with underhanded. It makes it tougher, but we're figuring it out. We're trying to get through it, and like I said, it is what it is. At the end of the day, we're all in the same boat. So
yeah, well, we obviously want everybody to be safe and sound out there. Now, as far as Del Mar goes and the area itself down there. For people who are flying in, they're traveling out there for the very first time. I know that you are a bit of a connoisseur when it comes to fine dining and fine wine and all of that. So where would you recommend people go around Del Mar to have the full experience?
Man, they're wonderful, wonderful restaurants in Del Mar and La Jolla and San Diego area. There's so many of them. I mean, you can't go wrong. You really can't. It's a wonderful place to come, even in the wintertime. Our winters are pretty mild up there. I mean, you can still go to the beach and hang out, and it's a lot of fun. So if you're coming in from Europe, I'd certainly make an extra week of it and make it just a little bit of a vacation, because it would be worth it. Del Mar is a wonderful place to be during that time.
Well, I'll name drop like 1 or 2 places. I love going to Cucina Enoteca because they have the squash blossoms stuffed with the ricotta. So good. And then old school Fidel's. I mean, right?
Good old, yeah, Mexican food. That's great. I mean, my go-to places are pretty obvious. I go to Pamplemousse,
Yep.
Red Tractons, and the market. Down across the polo field, and Sabika's in downtown. Man, I love to go to Sabika's as well. So those are my kind of go-to places. But there's so many wonderful new places in Del Mar right now that I've been experiencing. You ever been? If you love sushi, Ken Sushi Shop's amazing. If you've never been there, but there's just not too many places you could go wrong with. You got to go into La Jolla, and you talk about Spanish food. You got Javier's is my spot to go to over there, and there's just a lot of wonderful places.
No, it's great. What's your splurge meal?
Yeah, I love food. I don't eat a lot, Ren, but I don't deprive myself as well. I'll just work out a little harder the next day if I've gone overboard. I'll just train a little harder, and I'm very I train at least five days a week, sometimes 6. So if I go a little over the top, well, then it just means that it's an extra mile or 2 that I'm gonna have to put in as far as my cardio goes before I train.
I love it. I love it. Mike, again, the winningest Breeders' Cup champion jockey, 26 wins, Hall of Fame. Oh gosh, yeah. Let's add to that tally, which will then also boost up the fact that you're already in the lead with the most grade 1s at I believe 223. 223. That's insane. But yeah, let's keep that ticking on up. And there's just there are no superlatives that can fully encapsulate just how awesome you are. So thank you for all you do, not just for racing, but as a human being. I know you do a lot of work with PTGF. And I just think that, again, one of the best ambassadors our sport has.
Well, thank you so much. And you and my mom think alike a little bit. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, I just speak the truth. Everybody, Hall of Famer, Mike Smith.